Hello and welcome to the View from the Stands podcast. We are back again after a short recess.
Yeah, a little bit of time, a little longer than usual. Had some stuff going on, but we're back. That's all that matters.
Well, that and there wasn't too much to talk about anyway. But
exactly.
Last week, we're just going to get right into it. Last week, obviously, the NFL draft took place, and boy, oh boy, the Tennessee Titans, John Robinson worked his magic again, in my opinion. So let's just kind of dive right into it, just to give everyone who, if you haven't heard, you're probably living under a rock, but the Titans traded their first-round pick at 25 to the Baltimore Ravens in order to move up to number 22. They leapfrogged a couple of teams, and they did that in order to get Rashaan Evans. So, first off, I mean, Rashaan Evans was a guy that I thought was definitely somebody the Titans should be targeting. Really happy they got him. That was kind of my initial reaction without much analysis. What was going through your head, Tay, when the Titans traded, when you saw him trade up?
Honestly, I thought that they were gonna, my instant reaction, which obviously was ignorant looking back, is like, they're going up for Harold Landry. We're gonna be able to get him, but I didn't realize obviously he's gonna fall to the second round, and they got the other guy that I wanted, Rashaan Evans. So I was pumped. We had three big needs going into the draft, and inside linebacker with the loss of Avery Williamson is a big one. So bringing in a guy like that who I think can plug and play was a great move. The trade that they had to make wasn't a significant amount that we had to give up. We gave up that 25th pick, and we also gave them the 125th pick, which is a fourth round pick, which was basically one of our picks we had, and we got back their 215. So I mean, it's not like we lost a pick over it. But I think it was a great move, and I think he's going to be a guy that can continuously, for years to come, be a run stopper and a good pass rusher.
Yeah, it was. I definitely had the same thing going through my head. Obviously, spoiler alert: the Titans did draft Harold Landry in the second round, but yeah, I mean, it was one of those trades where I was pleasantly surprised. I thought Rashaan Evans was like my 1B, because the Titans really had two positions of need. I thought I had a pressing need at inside linebacker left by Avery Williamson in free agency, and then obviously with two aging pass rushers in Derek Morgan and Brian Arakpo, it was extremely important for them to fill that spot. So I figured the Titans wouldn't be able to get both those players, but they would get one of the two, and I figured either way you could find some quality guys in the later rounds. So
yeah, I mean, and they traded up to 22 because they got in front of two teams that were looking, to be able to draft that. You're jumping in front of the Patriots, who would definitely be looking at a guy like that, and I want to say the Steelers, unless they traded out. I think they were close by, or maybe it was Carolina.
Yeah, the Steelers were behind them, but there were reports that the Steelers were looking to trade up in front of Tennessee because they figured Tennessee would be looking for him as well.
It was one of those situations where if they didn't make a move, they were either going to regret not doing it. You might as well give up that little bit that they gave up and get their guy. It worked out. It worked out perfectly. John Robinson.
Yeah, John Robinson's just doing work. But I was really surprised because I honestly thought that I didn't expect him to trade, because I didn't expect them to trade up, because I figured that the players that they wanted would fall to them, one of the few players that they wanted. But I honestly thought that if they would have stayed put, then I think they may have traded back, but obviously that doesn't really even matter now because they didn't. So, I mean, first, like you said, Taylor, I think initial reaction, I was stoked. I thought, I think Rashaan Evans is a great player. Hearing some of the things that Derrick Henry, his former teammate, has said about him is super cool. He's just a guy that, he played quarterback for a time, and then in high school, he played edge rusher, and then obviously when he went to Alabama, he started out as an edge rusher as well, and then towards the latter part of his college career, they moved him towards inside linebacker. So, I mean, there's not a ton of film on the kid, but from what we've seen, he obviously performed extremely well in the national championship last
And
year.
that's a good thing too to jump in with Alabama linebackers. You say you don't see a lot of film on him. It's because every year they got a new guy going in the first or second round. I mean, think back, you got guys like C.J. Mosley that have just been killing it from Alabama, and there's another guy that I can't think of right now.
Well, then
Top
there's
of my head.
Donta Hightower was a
Dante
Bama
Hightower was
linebacker.
the other one, yeah, that I was thinking of. And so, I mean, you got guys like that in front of these guys, like Rashaan Evans, so they get to learn from these guys for the first 2 years, most of the time that they're at Alabama, before they see legitimate playing time their junior and senior year. So Rashaan Evans is a guy who's going to be saved as far as his wear and tear on him. He's not going to be taking the hits of some of these other guys who've been 4-year starters. So, I like that about him as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's just I don't know. There's so much that we can kind of go into, but the only thing that I'm curious to see, because he didn't have to do it a ton at Alabama, but one thing that I think he'll be an upgrade, but is pass coverage. There's not a ton of film. You don't really see a ton of film on linebackers in pass coverage
Well,
as far as their highlights
newsflash.
and things like that.
Newsflash: Avery Williamson wasn't that good at covering in the secondary. So
I agree. That's what I'm
it's not
saying.
going to take much to be an upgrade. And if he's just as good as Avery Williamson, I mean, it'll be depressing. We would hope he at least is a little better than that. No, I mean, like I said, Avery Williamson put in good years, but he was proven liability in coverage.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say that he won't be better. I'm just curious to know what Titans fans can expect, because like I said, unless you're watching just game film, it's hard to really find, your opportunities to see that. And obviously, Bama's not putting out their game film, or people aren't putting their game film out there so that you can watch it. But
Well, I mean, remember, he's still got to compete for the job. I say he's a plug and play. I definitely think he can play, but you've got a guy like Will Compton, who's a veteran and been a captain. He's going to have to outwork him to get that spot, because obviously Woodger's going to be there after the season he had last year. But that second spot is going to be a battle, and I love the fact that he's going to come in and nothing's going to be given to him. So I want him to keep that attitude going forward throughout his rookie season.
yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you there. This will be a good segue as well. No, I think that the way that Mike Vrabel, it seems by his statements and things like that he's setting up this team, he's very much the type of guy where nothing is given. I mean, anybody can take any job, and I love the fact that with both these draft picks, with some of their free agent signings, the big one being the guard position, there are just a lot of positions that people would have figured would be, locks, like you said, with Will Compton being signed as a veteran. You'd think he's going to be the guy that would take over Avery Williamson's spot, right? Or, you have Quentin Spain signing his tender. You'd think, oh, he's going to be the guy that's getting that left guard spot. But John Robinson and Mike Vrabel understand that there needs to be competition in this locker room, and I love it. And one of the things that he said that I loved was when the Titans traded up with the Oakland Raiders, giving up a third-round pick and swapping second-round picks in order to get Harold Landry, which is a steal of a deal. You're getting a guy. You got 2 first-rounders, essentially. Yeah, the Titans did. And we can talk a little bit later about why we think he slipped. But John Robinson and Mike Vrabel both said, somebody asked him about Harold Landry being an understudy to Brian Arakpo and Derek Morgan, and he said, I don't want him to be an understudy. I want him to come in and compete for this job. And I just think that's such a good attitude that this team needs, especially in a division like we're in. Like, I just love it.
Yeah, at this point in your career, you don't really you learn how to be a professional. You don't learn how to play football from these guys. At this point, you know what the hell you're supposed to do, and you know how to do it. I mean, put it plain and simple. That's about as easy as it gets right there. But that's the truth. I mean, at this point, you got to do you and compete and go out there and make plays. That's the bottom line end of the day.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, like you said too, I mean, it's not like the kid doesn't know how to play. He had a 16 and a half, I think, sack season his junior year. And
Oh
then
yeah, he
last
can get
year,
after it.
he didn't even play the full schedule, and he was hampered by an ankle injury, and he still had 7 sacks. So I mean,
Which is why he slipped to us in the second round. But John Robinson said that our docs checked him out. They told him that obviously he was good enough to draft. That's not something. I mean, a second round pick, you don't just waste it. So he obviously thinks that he is good to go. Hopefully by the time season rolls around, we had the same kind of issue though with an ankle injury pop up on, or not an ankle but a foot injury pop up on Kevin Dodd. Maybe and we've seen what happened with that. So we hope that this is not the situation, but I don't think that it is. So my prediction is that he is able to come in and play and makes a big impact off of the edge.
yeah.
Obviously time will tell. So
Well, and one thing too, I don't want to get sidetracked too much and start talking about other things, but Kevin Dodd, I know people have kind of been writing him off, saying that he's going to be a bust, or he is a bust, and things like that. Which, I mean, at this point, he has not performed, which is something that we expected him to do, especially as a second round pick in his second year last year. But I read something interesting where he has not had an off season where he's been healthy to just work on honing in his craft. And then finally this year, going into the off season, he's healthy because, as you mentioned, after the combine and after the draft, he had a problem with his foot, and then it was re-aggravated towards the end of his rookie year, which caused him to miss even more of the off season between his rookie and his sophomore year. So I mean, obviously this is me being optimistic, but if we can have Kevin Dodd, who flashed immense potential in his senior year at Clemson, on one end,
no doubt about that,
and Harold Landry on the other side, I think we've got two quality edge rushers for a long, long time. And if people want to doubt it,
that's what you got to believe if you're the GM right now. That's for sure.
Well, and if people want to doubt it too, I mean, just look at Jadeveon Clowney. He had injuries for his first few seasons, and people started to write him off as a bust at the number 1 overall pick.
You're comparing Jadeveon Clowney as like he's a freak of nature. He's a once in a lifetime J.J. Watt type player. You don't have guys like that.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. But what I'm saying is after he was hampered by injuries his first couple of seasons, and people thought he was a bust. So I mean, I'm not saying that Kevin Dodd in any way, shape, or form is going to be the best pass rusher in the NFL. But what I am saying is that you have seen people overcome a few rocky years that start their career due to injuries and perform at a high level. So I think as Titans fans, that's all you can hope for, and we've got great depth anyways, which I think just looking at this draft as a whole is something that John Robinson totally believes, is that this team is ready to compete for a Super Bowl, and only thing they were missing were just a couple key players and maybe some schemes.
Defense, obviously.
Yeah.
Defense.
And obviously, like you said, their first 3 picks that they traded up for in every single case were defensive players.
And they were all needs, and that's where our biggest needs were on the defensive side, because after free agency, we signed some guys, and so we needed, the last thing we needed, talk about the third guy that we drafted here, the Dane Cruikshank, which hopefully I pronounced that right. Sorry, Dane. Hopefully we'll get a clarification on that. But
phonetic.
He's a guy that from the film you just see he's old school, almost to the fact of he wants to just knock heads off. And it's good to have a guy like that in the secondary that is willing to stick his nose in there and fill the run. So I think he can be another guy out of this draft that I had no idea, honestly, who he was before. I don't follow the Pac-12 a whole lot, to be honest. It's just one of those things that SEC Nation. But anyway, he seems to be a guy that's pretty athletic as well. Obviously, you can speak on some of the different positions that he played. I know he played a little safety, obviously, his senior year. Before that, kind of cornerback. I don't know, that didn't go so well. What do you think about his kind of, I guess, role that he'll play for us if he even, makes an impact rookie season? What do you think?
Well, one thing I'm almost positive that he will be a very good special teams player. Like you said, he loves to hit. He ran a 4.4 at the combine. I want to say he ran a 4.41. So I mean, he's got.
That's cooking.
Yeah, he's got great speed, and like you said, he's old school. He loves to hit. I think the Titans really value his versatility. I know Mike Vrabel has said, we value guys that are very versatile. I want to say that John Robinson referred to him as almost like a Swiss Army knife because of what you said. He started out at corner. Granted, it didn't go extremely well for him, which means I think if he does try and have some time at corner, it would most likely be in the slot in a nickel package. Um,
I see. Ideally, I hope you don't have him covering anything. Especially I don't know. We've got guys that can do what he would do in coverage better. I think that's all he's going to do. I see him more as zone, maybe blitzing packages, stuff like that, where he can either cover an area or get after the quarterback. One or two things for him to do, basically playing downhill. I don't see them dropping him in coverage, especially his rookie year.
Well, and I don't.
Ideally, that's what you want, but I don't see him beating out some of the other guys that we've got.
And I don't see him being our starting nickel cornerback. I mean, not at all. But I think in the future that might be something he develops into. But I can see him, especially in this first year. Obviously, I expect him to compete for the starting spot with Jonathan Cyprien. But I could also see him being a valuable piece on dime packages because of his experience as a corner. He might be able to effectively cover tight ends and running backs because he's got the size.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that. So that being said, it'll be interesting with Cyprien and Byer back there, and with the corners, obviously the two or the new addition from last year's draft, Adoree Jackson, and then the free agent signing of, fill me in here. I'm going blank on names.
Oh, Malcolm Butler.
But those two guys, and then fill in the corner spots pretty well. So, I don't know. He may get some action, but I doubt it unless there's an injury.
Yeah, I see him as playing mostly sub packages, like you were mentioning, whether he's playing
special
box,
teams, like
sub packages and special teams for sure. So,
which I think he can impact. And like that being said, based on our needs, that's another good pick. So I was thumbs up to this pick as well. I don't know how you felt.
Without a doubt, I think he's an upgrade in my opinion from Denoris Searcy. I felt Searcy was a good player, but he was never anything that was going to knock your socks off. Yeah. So yeah, I think you could easily say that the Titans, like you said, they drafted 3 positions of need. They needed that depth safety with the departures of Searcy and Curtis Riley in free agency. So picking up him was crucial. And obviously they traded up for him. This was a guy they really liked. I've seen people saying that he had a 3rd-round grade as a safety. So super great pick. The final pick that the Titans had, a lot of people were caught by surprise. Most people were thinking the Titans would go, whether that would be offensive line, whether it be wide receiver, something on the offensive side of the ball. Something. Yeah.
Yeah, I still don't know why Mel Kiper, whose ass he had his head up when he was writing our mock drafts with some of the stuff that he was coming up with. John Robinson, I bet if he saw him, he'd probably just smile at him.
Well, not only that, I know McShay had it as well. I think Lance Zierlein, I'm not sure how you say his name, the guy for NFL.com, had the Titans drafting a tight end as well. A lot of people had Titans drafting a guard. They had James Daniels out of Iowa, I know a lot of people had. But, yeah, like we said, mock drafts are like, meteorologists. They're almost always wrong, but nobody really cares.
He does a good job, but he was just so far off on us. It wasn't, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, so obviously.
This kid that we're talking about here, this last pick, Luke Falk, he, based on what I've seen and what I've, heard, he doesn't really do a whole lot of anything extraordinarily well. Just a kind of a student of the game still. He does a little bit of everything well enough to succeed. What have you seen on him, and what do you think? I definitely think he can compete for the backup position. At least make the roster. Hopefully, if we decide to keep 3 quarterbacks, I think he'll definitely make the roster, obviously with the release of Castle and just having now we've got Tyler Ferguson, I think,
And him are the
obviously
two other backups. And
yeah.
Gabbert.
So
Yeah, I honestly I see him as being very much. I mean, I think he'll start the season as the number 3 quarterback on the roster, and I'm sure
yeah,
he'll probably stay there for a while. They might he might be inactive on game days, that sort of thing. But I mean, the kid
he's got a good build though. He's 6'4". I mean, he's got the frame
without a
from your
doubt.
neck of the woods out there.
Yeah, he was from Logan, Utah originally. Went to Washington State and played in Mike Leach's. Uh, I
Pass
mean, just
happy offense.
yeah, just run. I mean, just sling it all over the field. I think
Sling it.
he's basically got every single Pac-12 passing record there is. Did have a down year last year. I read something. I'd have to double check it, but that in the mock from 2017, after the 2017 season, or sorry, the 2016 season, that people were saying that he was a first round talent. So I mean, take that as you will. Like you said, I don't think there's anything he does like extraordinarily well, but he's just a guy who's a very rhythmic passer. He gets the ball out on time, and he's a very accurate thrower at the combine. You'd see a lot of these guys when they're throwing slant routes and out routes and things like that to put the ball right on the body of the receiver and kind of make them slow down. But he did an extremely good job of just putting that ball one step out in front of the guys so they would extend for it, allowing them to not break their stride and keep their momentum. So I mean, if he does in down the line, end up playing for the Titans, which I don't see, I think he's got a lot of the skills that you would want. He's just his knocks.
I just say if he's playing for us, we're screwed. Just leave it at that. At this point, yeah, you don't want to see him enter the game. Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, and if he is, obviously, you'd hope that it was just in kind of a mop-up effort. But
you hope it was a preseason game.
Well, that too. But yeah, I mean, the kid, he's a very, very good quarterback, and I think most Titans fans have kind of thought about this. I know I have. Obviously, with Blaine Gabbert, you've got a quality backup.
What you're going to get.
Yeah, you've got a quality backup. So if the Titans can... I mean, I don't see them doing this right now, but they might try and leverage him for draft picks in the future, kind of like the Patriots did with Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know if he'll really have the time to shine outside of, like you said, outside of the preseason to really show off his skills, and hopefully we can get some team that's looking for a long-term solution at quarterback, and he can kind of impress enough to be almost like their backup or an understudy. I don't know. I think there's lots of different ways the Titans could go with that. But either way, I think it's a great pickup. I think you just got now 3 quality guys in the quarterback room. Obviously don't know too much about Tyler Ferguson because he's been on the practice squad for the last year. So, but yeah, all in all, I've seen different grades, but in my opinion, I think the Titans had an incredible draft. Granted, they didn't have a ton of depth, a ton of quantity, as people would say, the quantity over quality, but they had plenty of quality. I think, like I said, you got 2 first-rounders, in my opinion, in Landry and Evans. I think Cruikshank is a guy that will make an impact right now on special teams and will perform well in sub-packages. And I think in the future could be an eventual replacement for Jonathan Cyprien and Kevin Byard's partner back there in the secondary. And then obviously Falk will be a solid backup for Mariota, hopefully for years to come. But that's kind of my thoughts. Well, overall, what do you think about the draft, Tay?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely enjoy. If I had to give it a letter grade, I'd say an A. I think they did great. I think obviously it'd have been nice to have some other picks. They're not going to give them 100. Not going to give them 100 on their test. So, but I love what they did. And then you also want to kind of segue into some of these free agent drafts that they or draft picks that they picked up as well. A couple guys to come in and compete. You got guys like that Akram Wadley and some of these other guys that could come in and possibly make an impact.
Yeah, I think there are 2 of them that I'm really looking at. Like you said, I think Akram Wadley's a big one, and then the other one is I mean, I want to make sure I get this name right. I want to say it's Deontay
Burnett.
Burnett. That's what it is. I can always never
And then
remember if
also
it's Burnett
Ethan
or
Wolf
Burton.
too. Don't forget Ethan Wolf from
Yeah.
UT.
Ethan Wolf will
He's
be a good
another
one.
guy. So,
That I think he'll compete. Super Nas, I'm almost positive, is still on the roster, so he'll be a guy
he's
that'll
playing.
compete with Super Nas, I think, because I think the Titans like Stalker and his blocking capabilities, and I think Wolf can complement that as well. But yeah, I mean, I think in Wadley, he's a guy that had back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons in the Big Ten. A lot of people are saying they're surprised he wasn't drafted. There are some things that I see that could be worrisome. He is a smaller guy, so he's obviously got to find his role. I think he'll be very similar to a Dion Lewis type of player, and I think he'll be a good backup. That number 3 running back, I see him competing with David Fluellen on that aspect.
He had a really good senior season.
And he did. My only question is how will he perform in pass protection? Because I think he's got all the qualities to be a good third down back. The only thing is how will he do in pass protection, because he is a smaller guy. And these linebackers and blitzers that you have at the next level are much bigger and much stronger.
He'll have to, basically learn if he gets in there, trial by fire, because a lot of those guys that do what he does, man, that I don't know how they do it. Like Danny Woodhead, guys like that they're the same size. So I mean, it's not that it can't be done. So it's just one of those things. Very few people are able to do it and succeed. So see if he can.
And I think between that and his ability to perform on special teams will determine whether he's the number 3 running back on the roster or possibly a practice squad guy. Because a lot of the things that I know Malarkey liked about David Fluellen was his ability to perform well on special teams. And then obviously in the few snaps that he got offensively, he wasn't a liability in pass protection. He wasn't anything spectacular either. So that's just a couple of things that I think I'm going to be. I think everybody should be kind of watching, because he is a special talent. He's very quick. He's a very capable receiver as well. So that's one. Another guy that kind of going along that thread, like I said, is that Burnett guy. A lot of people had him getting drafted, and some people I saw had him as a 4th-round talent, some people as a 6th-round talent, but he had some hamstring issues coming into from finishing up the season, coming into the combine and the pro days and things like that really inhibited him from doing extremely well. But this is a guy that was the leading receiver last year for USC. So the fact that the Titans picked him up undrafted, I think should be kind of calming to all those people calling for the Titans to have drafted a wide receiver. They got somewhere.
I'm not quite on that bus, though.
Why not? Let's hear it.
I don't think we needed another wide receiver. I think we've spent too many draft picks on receivers. It's like, at this point, we got to give Corey Davis a chance. We got to give Taywan Taylor a chance before we just kick him to the curb. And then you also got Tajay Sharp that people forget about, had flashes his freshman and rookie season, whatever you want to call it, for us, making some huge third down conversions. I can remember multiple times on third down going up to climbing the ladder to grab it, bring it down, get us a first down. Obviously, granted, that season we probably had 3 wins, but he had flashes of that chemistry with Mariota and the ability to go up and get the ball. So I think a lot of people will be surprised to see some of the things that Sharp will be able to do once he gets out on the field. He was incredible in college.
Yeah, I mean, you got a short memory too. We went at 9-7 that year. We just missed the playoffs by a game. If Mariota hadn't gotten hurt, we probably would have made the playoffs.
Yeah, it was more of
an exaggeration.
Joke.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think the Titans do have a lot of quality players at the wide receiver position that they haven't given a chance to. But I like this pick because, again, it's just instilling that thing within people that they've got to compete, that there are people that want their jobs. I think Burton, he was a slot receiver in college. I think he could be somebody that really pushes Taywan Taylor. I expect Taywan Taylor to be the number 3 receiver, or at least the slot receiver here next year. But, I mean, I think you can never go wrong with adding quality depth players through undrafted free agents. Like I think the Titans made the smart move not drafting wide receiver, knowing that they could get a guy like this who was very easily a draftable player. He has the talent to be, and they get him as an undrafted free agent, which I think is awesome. So, um, I mean, great things from that perspective. So I love that. And then I know there was the safety that you wanted to talk about that they got as an undrafted free agent. What was his name again?
Oh, you're talking about Damon Webb. Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about him. Do know that he, oh geez,
Played at Ohio State. I know that one.
he played at Ohio State, but I'm trying to remember if they had him more in the box or as like a free safety. I'm not sure, but obviously probably the familiarity there of Mike Vrabel with Ohio State and their program.
Well, and Kerry Coombs.
And Kerry Coombs, obviously the secondary coach. So it'll be interesting to see if he can compete with Cruikshank for that third safety position.
Yeah. So I mean, people are saying this about the Titans draft. Right? Like I said, they didn't get a lot of quantity, but they got a lot of quality. But I think that they're undrafted free agents. They have been able to bring in a lot of guys, and I think they both have quality and quantity undrafted free agents. And I think a lot of these guys will compete for roster spots. So something to keep an eye on. I know rookie minicamp is coming up fairly soon. But yeah, overall, I mean, as a Titans fan, you can just sit there and clap and thank your lucky stars that John Robinson is the GM of the Tennessee Titans. He's been a general manager. This is his third draft now, and I don't think you can really be upset with hardly any of his picks. I mean, you can maybe complain, like I said, about Kevin Dodd, but I still think you got to give him another year or so before you can really call him the worst pick of John Robinson's career. So,
hey, and so interruption here. This Damon Webb last year had a nice pick six on Sam Darnold. So, just throw that out there. He might be a competitor for this second position. Look like he's a little bit of a ball hawk. So,
yeah,
be on the lookout for more. We'll have to see about that. That's something I didn't see until recently. So this guy could be a factor.
And I think
more to come.
With a lot of these guys, I think the thing that's going to set them apart is the team, the general manager, the head coach. They've all said versatility is key. They want guys that can do a lot of different things. That way they can, have plenty of flexibility in their roster spots. They don't have to spend it on just guys that can only play special teams or guys that can only play defense or offense. They've got guys that can do a little bit of everything. So I think that's huge for them. But like I said, all in all, great draft by John Robinson. And now we got to wait for minicamp and training camp, but things seem to be going well, and we'll make sure to.
Football is coming, boys.
Yeah, we're in that little bit of a lull period.
We don't discriminate.
No, we don't. Not in today's world. Otherwise, we'd get demonetized on YouTube, even though we don't even try and make money yet. So,
might send somebody in front of our houses to carve up a pig or something.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? All right. Wild stuff. That is it for us here at View from the Stands. Hopefully, you keep coming back
for this time.
Hopefully, we don't sound like idiots, but
probably do, but that's okay.
Yeah, at least we can admit it if we are wrong. So like I said, that's it from us, and stay tuned for more to come. See you later, everybody.
Adios, jabronis.